Welcome back to Life Insurance Today. I'm your host, Edward Pritchett. And man, I'm going to make some people mad today. What if I told you that you could write $60,854 worth of life insurance premium on a $900 lead spin? Don't tell Cody Askins. Don't tell Cody. I told y'all about this. But I am sitting here with Latonya James. And guys, that is what she did last month. Not like 6 years ago, last month. And you've only been in the industry for 6 years. So we're getting ready to dive into it, find out a little bit more about how she is doing this so you can do it too. Let's get started. All right, Latonya, I am so excited that you honored me by saying, hey, I'm going to take some time out of my, we're not paying you an appearance fee. You can negotiate that later if you want to. But,
Okay.
but I've always been impressed. I've known you now in this industry for, it's been the past 6 years or so. And I've consistently seen you be just a not only a strong producer, but probably, I'd have to do the math, but probably one of the best on ROI for what you spend on your marketing, we call that getting leads, to what you're able to deliver on a return. And the thing is, it's tracked and trended upward over the years. So we'll get into talking about that, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who would like to be able to take a whole bunch of aged leads, and go and write 10, 15, 20, maybe even $60,000 a month. You've read, what's the most, you pretty much exclusively work aged leads, is that correct?
Yep, that's all I work.
That's all you work.
Yeah.
We may talk about why, but it doesn't even matter why. I love the fact that you're doing that and getting the results. What's the biggest month of premium that you've ever written on aged leads?
About 80,000.
$80,000. One more question on that.
Okay.
Do you how recently was that?
About 3 months ago.
Oh, okay, so it's recent.
Yeah.
How much did you spend that month on leads?
Less than 1,000. I've never spent more than $1,000. I don't believe.
I think I might be able to change your belief on spending more than
Oh,
1,000,
okay.
but I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm not going to. If you could spend 1,000 and write 80, man, what could you do anyway?
Right. Okay. But
but
time comes in with that.
that is true. You're right. You're right. There's a push and pull there, yin and yang.
Yeah.
But I just want agents to understand what's possible.
Okay.
People get brand new leads and don't write that kind of premium.
Okay.
But what you're finding is that in aged leads,
Mhm.
leads who maybe somebody called them, maybe somebody didn't call them.
Okay.
Maybe it's been sitting there for, I don't know, 2 weeks, 5 weeks,
Right.
20 weeks, 3 years.
Right.
You're like, you know what? I can pick those up and there's business in there.
Right.
And you've
Absolutely.
consistently seen that for the past 6 years.
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to figure out how she's doing this as we go throughout this process today. So, but I think it starts with, you're a psychologist.
I am.
You went to school for a while to be a psychologist, to provide for your family.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about so why that? What was it? What was the impetus? What was the drive that made you push like you push to get the degrees necessary to be a psychologist before you started in this industry?
Well, yeah, so I'm a daddy's girl.
Okay.
And my dad has 4 girls. And so I pride myself, I've always hung around my father, and he was, in my eyes, the ultimate provider. My mom stayed home. We had the traditional family. My mom and dad have still been married for 40 something years. And so we had the traditional family. My mom stayed home. She took care of the house. My dad went out. He was the breadwinner. And together they made a powerful couple.
Okay.
I gravitated to my father, who's a pastor, and he's a communicator, and he's overly competitive,
Okay.
and just an achiever. And so I was kind of like the boy that he never had.
Okay.
So I learned everything from my dad. I'm still learning how to be the woman that my mother is, but I learned that fight spirit
Okay.
from my dad, that go-getter, that you may fall down, but nothing is impossible. My dad
Gotcha.
used to always tell me, if you work at it and you do everything that you can do, if you don't get it, then you come back and I'll get it. And to this day, it's like, so that was embedded in me. I'm a communicator. I'm a salesperson by heart. I used to sell candy, for the church. And so that's kind of how you get your start in sales. Do you want to work all day selling one bar to somebody, or do you want to learn how to sell the cases so that you can get done sooner?
So you were that kid who was coming up with the neighborhood scheme to get everybody
Well,
together, make sure that like, all
well,
right, Billy, you got territory 2, you got
well,
territory 7, I'm gonna take 8.
when the goal is to get the chocolate bar at the
Hey,
end of
exactly.
it's like, how fast can we eat the sweets? So I take that mentality seriously. It's still even today,
Okay.
just and I've just been very competitive. I'm one of those people, if you tell me I can't,
You're gonna find a way to do
I'm
it.
gonna find a way to do it.
And here's the thing that I want our audience to understand, like, as you're listening to all of these amazing agents and what they're doing, borrow from their mindset. Like, figure out like what are the things that they're doing to win, and if you don't have it, develop it. If it's not something you can get, like, figure out like what are the things that you can do to shore up and help yourself around those. But like some of these mindset things, as a psychologist, right? Mindset can be developed, right?
Absolutely.
You had a great head start because of your father, but as got into the workforce, you were making a strong income
Right.
as a psychologist. You have 3 kids?
I do. I have 3
Three
daughters.
kids. And you wanted to do that because you want to kind of present that same, from our conversation, that what you got to see growing up. You
Right.
wanted that for your family. Like, family is the
It's-
important
yeah,
thing.
absolutely.
Everything else comes after that. Why didn't being a psychologist, like, why didn't that fulfill that need? How did you go from being a psychologist? I mean, people ask me this all the time. How did you go from being a chemical engineer to insurance? I'm
See.
like, well, if you knew what I was doing, you wouldn't say it like that. But
Right.
I'll explain. Sit down for just a second. But for you, like,
Okay.
that transition, I mean, I know there are people in the audience who, like, they spent the time in school.
Right.
They invested,
Right.
probably still paying on the student loans,
Oh.
you know, right? Um, but they need that shift. They need that change.
Right.
What allowed you? What was the push that you allowed to take you from, I'm a psychologist, to, you know what, I'm a provider for my family and I can have the time because
Right.
of what this industry can do?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. It was hard.
Okay.
It was a hard shift for me, and I can tell you why. Well, but what promoted me to do that? So I've been to law school. I am a psychologist, so I did both law, and that is crazy as it seems.
It's tough.
Because
So
I
PhD, JD, or JDP,
yeah,
like you got all the letters.
because somebody told me that when I had kids, how are you going to finish school? How are you going to go to
Okay.
school? So I set out to be the best student. I wanted to have all of the degrees,
Okay.
and in every field that I wanted to be a part of.
Gotcha.
And so that's what I did. So I'm one of those people that I love proving you wrong. Doesn't mean that I won't fail, but I'm up for the challenge
Gotcha.
to show you that not only can you do it, but you can do it well. It doesn't mean that you won't have pitfalls, but you can get up, you can fall forward instead of sitting there and falling backwards or never getting up. And I also I was a single mother, I'd been through divorce, so everything is not always, peaches and cream, but I wanted my daughters to see that even if you're by yourself, you can still live a life of prosperity and productiveness. And you don't have to, well, I'm a single family home, so we can't do this, we lack here. That's never been taught to my girls. They've traveled all around the world. We travel, that's our piece. And so I grew up doing that, and that's what we do all the time. But that takes income.
Yeah.
That takes time, that takes resources that for one person, let alone 2 people doing it, one person, that may seem impossible for them. And I'm just like, nope, this is what we got to do. Something had to sacrifice. I would never sacrifice my kids. So in the beginning, the sacrifice was me. and
Because you were working still full time as a psychologist,
yeah,
and you were part time
as
as an
as a
insurance
as a
agent.
right.
So you're kind of on both sides of the fence, so to speak.
Both sides of
Trying
the
to figure
fence, because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And I
So you
felt,
weren't sold on insurance right off the bat, like this was
oh
going to be the
no,
thing.
you know what? To be honest, I tell everybody this was a faith journey, blind faith walk for me, because I saw insurance and I was like, I was like, that's not, oh, what? No. And I went to everybody and I was like, what do you think?
Mm.
This is where I am now.
What do they all say?
You're crazy. Have you lost your mind? What is going on with you? I mean, there was nobody that was on my side except for my girls. My babies were the only, even including my parents, and they loved me to death. But nobody could understand why I would go to school for all these years. I didn't have a bad income. I had a six-figure income, but when you have six figures, and the reality is, after everything else gets coming out of that, is it really six figures anymore?
6 figures on W-2 is
That
more
part.
like
Exactly. But, I had a good income.
Yeah.
I was maintaining my family. Nobody understood why I needed more. In their eyes,
had
you
enough.
have everything.
Yeah.
You're doing, you're going, you're thriving. Why do you need more? But I was not happy. I never understood what people meant when you see millionaires and billionaires and they're miserable. And I'm like, oh my God, if I had all that money, there is no way that I would be. And then you get to where you think that you should be, and it's not. It's not what you think it is. And it's like, okay, I'm still not happy. What do I do? How do I fix this? And so that's where I was at when I was looking for something. I did not know what that something was. Insurance just kind of fell into my lap, and I threw it away when it fell into my lap. And I was like, like the two don't even coincide. Like, I'm Dr. James over here. What is this? So you get your ego. You got all these things that come into play. Nobody's going to know you over here. You don't even have a seat over here. Doesn't even look like you even belong over there. Why would you even want to get into something that defies everything that you've done? It's like you're going backwards. So if I had to listen to everybody, that's the mindset. And I would have never done it. And I was like, okay, no, something kept pulling me to it. So that's the part that I call my faith walk, because I believe that if it is for you, it is for you. And when doors are open for you, nobody can close that door but you.
Some of y'all needed to hear that this afternoon, morning, evening, whenever you're watching this, because there's been a door that's been open, and so you kind of threw it back.
I did,
but
it came back.
What made you say, all right, let me move from this like part-time testing this thing out to, I mean, your girls were supportive of it, but everybody else was still like,
right,
you crazy,
right.
What made you go from full-time psychologist, part-time insurance agent to full-time insurance agent?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to try it out. So, and I didn't have a lot of time either. Single mother, 3 kids, they're active. I could only call on my lunch break, while I was going to see patients in the car, while I'm driving, trying to set up appointments. And at that time, there was no stay at home and make phone calls. We were going out, to see them. So
6 years ago, this is pre
exactly.
Zoom
This
meetings.
is pre-COVID and all of that. And so I only had time in the evenings, and I could only do it in the evenings in between my kids' extracurricular activities.
Okay.
So you have to be intentional with that.
It's not even funny how often that word comes up when I have a successful agent sitting in that chair right there. Intentionality.
You gotta be. There's no other way. If you're not intentional with it, and I didn't know what it looked like. I just knew that I wanted to see if it was going to work. And so I had to give it all that I got, which it felt like 2 full-time jobs. And I was like, oh my God, this is not what I signed up for. I wanted to have work-life balance. I wanted to have more time for my kids. But in the beginning, you got it's a sacrifice. And and then nobody believed me. Like, I would be out late at people's homes, and my mother would call and be like, I know you're not out selling no insurance at this time.
It's me.
And I'm like, I really am. But what I found out in all of that, even with the paperwork and all of the things, it would keep me up late at night. But I started to see that with the little bit of time that I had, even on the weekends, I was doing it. I was making money. And I was like, it's got to be something to this. Like maybe this is like a hidden secret that nobody's like really talking about, and maybe they're not talking about it because it's like really good. So kind of like when your parent says, "Okay, don't go over there, don't get that," and you're like, it must be something to it because you keep telling me don't go over there too. Well, so that's kind of how it was. And I found I just my brain. I'm one of those people. I'm a researcher by heart, and I was like, well, if I can do this just a little bit, because I mean, in between 6 and 9 you don't have that many hours.
So many hours, 15 hours.
But I was starting to make a lot of money in that little bit of time. And so I was just like, if I do this full time, if I calculate this up as to what I'm making and I take away this other 10 hours, that I'm slaving and working for somebody else, giving them all of my time and not really being happy, what could life look like for me? And it was scary. I remember crying. I remember trying to go back to the very people that were calling me crazy to try to say, do you still think that, just so that they could kind of give me some leverage to say, yep, this is not what I need to be doing. And if it had not been for my children, my baby said, you know what, you can do it. And whatever you want to do, we are behind you. And I was like, don't you think that's crazy? Like, I'm not going to be Dr. James anymore. I'm going to be,
out of the mouths of babes.
Out of the mouth. And I had prayed for that. And I said, God, if where what it is that I want, that I desire. I desire to have work-life balance. I desire to be the mom, but I'm only one income.
Yeah.
If I don't make this boat go float, this is it. So, it's all or nothing for me. So, what I need, wherever it is, and I laughed because I was like, but don't let it be insurance.
Well, that's exactly why it's insurance. You know what?
And it was. It was. And you know what? I cold turkey. I went to my job and I just told them that I quit. And they were like, what's wrong with you? You need time to think about it.
You need a psychologist.
That part. And I was like, I don't know right now, but I quit and I never looked back. And I was just like, Lord, guess what? Okay. I feel like I'm following where you're leading me, because a lot of times we have to get out of the way of ourselves. We tear things down, and we block blessings. And so I was like, if this is what this is supposed to be, you better make this real good, because this is not going to be funny if I have to go back.
It sounds like it has been made and blessed to be real good. Let's just kind of talk about like what it is like today. And in the last little bit, I want you to give, because everybody's waiting. They're like, okay, we appreciate it. We know the story, but like, how do I turn $1,000 in leads into $80,000, $60,000 and submit? And we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Okay.
But what's the potential? I mean, like we can talk about $60,000 and submit, and be as transparent as you want. Like we know everything isn't always gonna get issued, but what percentage of that are you getting issued?
Oh, I mean, if it's that would be, so when I say 60,000, I meant that's what came home to me. That's what I meant.
That's what she meant.
I mean, because that's how I gauge it.
I got you.
That's how I've gauged it.
So $60,000 in income, 80,000 in a previous month. I mean, do the ROI on the lead spend there. What does life look like now? I mean, how much time are you spending working on your insurance practice, and how much time do you have for the girls?
Oh, I have lots of time for my girls. Oh, they hate it. Now,
they hate it. What's that about? I mean, because like that's what people hear, those numbers, and they think, oh, she must be dialing 40 hours a week and she's doing 80 hours a week worth of appointments, and at the end it's like more than the number of hours in the week that they've added up in their heads that you're doing. But like what does a typical week, hours spent look like on insurance?
So I will say this. I've never actually worked a 40-hour week, surprisingly, since I've been here.
Okay.
Even at the beginning, I had my mindset that was okay. But it's never been a straight. I mean, my thing was this. So my idealistic or realism about it is I dial around my life. I don't let my life dictate when I dial. And because my life moves around. so much in regards to my kids and things that are going on. So I've learned to dial on the go. I've learned to dial at home. I've learned to dial in my car if I need to. My office is wherever I am,
I got you.
wherever I go. And so therefore, and then when you love what you do, it's not really work anymore. At the beginning, yes, it took a lot of consistent dials, and more so because my mindset was different. I was still fighting it at the very beginning. So it did take a lot of that because I wasn't getting anywhere either the first couple months. I didn't want to work on the weekend. I really didn't want to be dialing. I thought it was telemarketing. I didn't want to talk. So all of these things
So
played a part.
you had to shift your mindset to make it
Oh,
so that like the activities that you had to do, like how many dials would you say in a given week these days do you make?
I don't even count them anymore.
Okay.
But I would say, so a typical schedule for me, maybe
Okay.
this will make more sense. So I take my kids to school. They're off. They're gone. And then I have some me time in there. So I probably start about 10 o'clock, maybe 11, depending on what's going on. And then I'll dial. I have a team now too. So I deal with agents, and in the midst of that, so probably I say close to about 12 o'clock,
Okay.
I'll start dialing. And my kids get out of school at between 3 and 4. So in between that time, I dial.
You're just on the phone, you're going through the leads, and you told me earlier
Mhm.
you're not using a dollar system or a
No,
platform.
I
You
use
got your
God's
leads,
given gifts.
you got your leads, you
I,
got your cell phone, and
I
you're
got my
just
phone.
dialing.
I have me.
Got
I am the computer. I'm the knowledge. I mean, if you have it up here, you can take it anywhere.
Gotcha.
So I just dial.
And then, so you do that based off the day, based off what the flow of your life.
Hmm.
How many appointments are you looking to book each given week?
So now you're gonna get me because I don't book appointments anymore.
Okay. What do you do?
I do it right there.
You-
One call.
so you're so she's on the phone, and this comes from like there was practice and repetition
Yes.
to figure out how to do this. Like
Right.
this didn't happen year one.
No.
This has
Well,
evolved over time. Like,
so
well, I
about
mean, you
6
may have
months
started.
in,
You
so I
started working on it.
I
Yeah.
started with appointments because
Okay.
I didn't know anything else,
Yeah.
And but again, the goal is to work smart,
Exactly.
not harder.
Yeah.
And so, and this was pre-COVID. I wanted to know how could I not waste gas? How
Yes.
could I, have more
Best ROI
time?
in the game, y'all. Like y'all,
You
like,
know,
you see the process, the mindset.
I wanted to be at home.
Yeah.
And remote, is it really remote if I gotta go and and I didn't want to be stood up and then be frustrated. So I was trying to figure out how do I eliminate all of these things,
Gotcha.
but still have a good outcome.
Yeah.
So, in piecing it together, it took me probably about 6 months before I found out that I could work from home and do it. So this was before COVID. And when I found that out, it was a game changer for me. The wheels started turning, wheels started going.
And you found this out by practicing trial and error.
Trial and
Right?
error.
You
It is
you you
all.
worked with. There was some mentorship.
Yeah.
Like I know you have
Yes.
mentors. I know the system that you plug
Mhm.
into, and there was guidance, but you still had to walk the path.
Oh, absolutely.
You still
Absolutely.
and you started when the path like it's a lot clearer now.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You started with the path. There's still some trees in the middle of the path
Right.
when you started, but it's that repetition. And I think when I listen to kind of your progression through this,
Hmm.
it's the mindset that you've always had of I'm gonna win.
Oh yeah.
I'm willing to put my mind and effort to it. I'm not gonna shirk away from that. Now that I've committed,
Right.
and you made that commitment,
Right.
and that's why over a 6-year period of time, your level of expertise has gone from, I mean, better, and it just continues to get better. So we said we would give them the tips, and I think
Okay.
you've laid it out. I mean, you've told them like it's, hey, I make my dials
I just dial. I dial until I get my goal,
until you get your goal,
whatever that is.
and you've gotten to the point. The efficiency part
Hmm.
is like it's not necessarily about booking an appointment.
Right.
It's about I'm looking for clients who like I want to have a conversation with them. I want
Right.
to use that, whether it's the emotional persuasion questions or what, like
Yeah.
it's getting something out of them. And
Right.
I would imagine the psychology background has a role. It helps somewhat,
It helps.
right? To
It
pull
helps.
out like what's that emotional draw that says, hey, I need to do something about this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, Latonya, let's talk.
Because the thing is this, it's kind of like this. If you had your family and you knew that your family was hungry and you went out to go get food, the goal is to bring food back home, right? The goal is not to say, well, I went and you go to the lake. I'm going to use the lake because I'm a fisher. I'm a fisher girl.
Okay.
And my dad, thanks. But we would go to the lake. The goal is to catch fish. You go to the lake, you know that there are fish in there. Now, whether you come back with something or not is going to be how determined that you are. How determined are you to stay out there? Because there are fish there. But if the goal is to eat, would you really go catch the fish, pick it up, and tell it, I'll be back to you tomorrow?
All right, Latonya, I mean, here's the comment that I know. There's someone out there thinking they're like, well, she didn't tell me anything about how she did it. You weren't listening, so you need to watch it again, take some better notes, and eventually, hopefully, you'll get it. So let's leave them with one thing. Like
Okay.
if you were talking to an agent, whether new, experienced, or otherwise, and they said, "Hey, Latonya, I want to be able to come into this industry and have a strong return on investment for the lead spend that I do. I'm willing to put in time. I'm willing to put in the work.
Okay.
What's the one thing that they need to do?" And you mentioned it to me earlier, just with like what you do on a regular. I was like, well, what special do you do? Like, what is it that you would share with them? And like, this is what they should put into practice and in that
Okay.
intentional way that we've
Okay.
talked about,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can start seeing positive results and start to be able to grow to where, I mean, in 6 years, you've gone from where, I mean, $60,000 a month in income,
It's nice.
and some months more than that. And it seems like this is something that you just kind of decide, like, okay, this month we're gonna do this, and well, this month we're gonna take some vacations. We don't need that much because we banked up a little bit. So, what's the advice that to the audience? What would you share with them? What can they go after watching this and start doing that's going to help them improve and hopefully scale to be able to do close to
Better than.
better than what
Better
you're
than.
doing?
So can do it like this way.
You can talk to them.
All right. So I would say that for me, it's twofold. This would be the advice. So this is the advice that I gave myself earlier in. Number one, you want to not be straddle the fence. You got to make up your mind. Because if you don't know where you're going, you will always be all over the place. So you have to make a decision. Either you want this or you don't. Because if you want it, you'll work for it. That's number one. Number two is consistency is key. You can't listen to other people. You've got to find what works for you and you've got to continue to do it. You've got to continue to make your craft better. And then you have got to lose the excuses. Lose the excuses. If you don't lose the excuses, you will be going backwards and in circles forever. But I can guarantee you, if you lose the excuses, you will have nothing but to better yourself. And in bettering yourself, you will make everything and everything around you be more prosperous.
1, 2, 3. I mean, that's it. If we actually had microphones, we would drop them right now. Where can they learn more? Where can they follow you? I know you're building an agency now. You're doing training. Where can they go? Well, it'll pop up somewhere around here. But where can they go to?
So I don't know where it is, but so you can find me on I'm on Facebook under Latonya James. I'm on LinkedIn under Dr. Latonya James. You know, you can't never
You're
lose
always gonna be a doctor. You're always gonna be a
You're
doctor.
always and in this field, you do a lot of it.
There you go.
And you can also find us at thejamesagency.sfg.com.
All right. We'll have those links. If they didn't just pop up for you, we'll have those links in the show notes below, so definitely check it out. If you're wanting to know how you can just really be able to maximize what you're doing with the type of leads that you're working, finding the best return in, I mean, literally everything that comes to you lead wise, like you're getting strong return. You're turning that into quality business that's helping families that weren't getting help before, right? Somebody else had the opportunity, they weren't able to help them. You're able to, and that's why you're being rewarded in the way you are. So if this was impactful to you, share this story with someone who you think it can be impactful with as well. Like, send a comment to Latonya and let her know, like, what touched you? What was something that you're like, thank you for saying that. I've been needing to hear that. Expressing some gratitude to those who are sharing with you is always a great thing. And guys, we just really appreciate you joining us here on Life Insurance Today, trying to bring you the best in the insurance industry to help you grow your business. I'm your host, Edward Pritchett. We'll see you next time here on Life Insurance Today.